Maya Chen clutched her 3-year-old Android phone tighter as she walked through the crowded hallway of Lincoln High School, its cracked screen catching the fluorescent lights overhead. The device wasn't much to look at. The protective case was worn at the edges, and the battery barely lasted half a day. But it was hers, and more importantly, it was her gateway to a world where she felt truly powerful. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya had always been different from her classmates. While other 17-year-olds spent their evenings scrolling through TikTok or binge-watching Netflix, Maya was hunched over her laptop in the basement of her family's modest 2-story home, teaching herself advanced programming languages and diving deep into the intricate world of cybersecurity. Her parents, recent immigrants from Taiwan who worked double shifts to make ends meet, didn't quite understand their daughter's passion for what they called computer games, but they supported her nonetheless, proud of her straight A's and her acceptance into the advanced computer science program. The hallway buzzed with the usual Monday morning energy. Students clustered around their lockers, sharing weekend stories and comparing the latest gadgets. Maya noticed how effortlessly her classmates pulled out their newest iPhones and Samsung Galaxy devices, their screens pristine and their cases designer-branded. She'd learned to keep her phone in her backpack during lunch, avoiding the inevitable glances and whispered comments about the girl who couldn't afford to upgrade. But today felt different. Today there was an electricity in the air that made Maya's stomach churn with unease. As she approached her locker, number 247, tucked away in a less popular section of the school, she noticed a group of 5 boys congregating near the water fountain. She recognized them immediately. The self-proclaimed tech elite of Lincoln High, led by 17-year-old Brandon Matthews, whose father owned a successful tech startup downtown. Brandon was everything Maya wasn't in the eyes of their classmates. He was tall, confident, with perfectly styled blonde hair and an easy smile that made teachers favor him and girls gravitate toward him. More importantly, he carried the latest iPhone Pro Max, wore a smartwatch that cost more than Maya's family spent on groceries in a month, and never missed an opportunity to showcase his family's wealth. Beside him stood his usual crew. Tyler, the basketball team's star player who documented every moment of his life on social media. Marcus, the class president with political ambitions and a smartphone collection that would make tech reviewers jealous. Jake, whose family owned 3 luxury cars and who treated school like his personal networking event. And finally Connor, the quiet follower who laughed at every joke and amplified every cruel comment to stay in the group's good graces. Maya tried to walk past them unnoticed, but Brandon's voice cut through the hallway chatter like a knife. "Hey Maya, still rocking that ancient piece of junk?" His voice carried that particular tone of mock concern that bullies perfected, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, but delivered with a smile that could be dismissed as friendly teasing if any adult questioned it. Maya's steps faltered, but she didn't turn around. She'd learned that engaging with Brandon and his friends only made things worse. Instead, she fumbled with her locker combination, her fingers trembling slightly as she tried to ignore the snickers behind her. "Seriously though," Tyler chimed in, pulling out his own gleaming device. "I think that phone is older than some of the apps on my phone. Does it even connect to Wi-Fi?" The group erupted in laughter, and Maya could feel the heat rising in her cheeks. "Maybe we should start a GoFundMe," Marcus suggested with false sincerity. "Help Maya join the 21st century. I mean, I feel genuinely bad that she's stuck in the Stone Age while the rest of us are living in the future." Jake, ever the one to escalate situations, walked closer to Maya's locker. "Come on, Maya, don't be shy. Let's see this technological marvel." His voice dropped to a whisper that only she could hear. "We all know your family can't afford anything better, but we're not trying to be mean. We're just curious." The cruelty of his words hit Maya like a physical blow. It wasn't just about the phone. It was about everything the phone represented. The financial struggles her parents never talked about, but that she felt in every clipped conversation about money, every generic brand grocery item, every time her mom worked an extra shift to pay for Maya's computer science textbooks. Connor, not wanting to be left out of the entertainment, decided to add his voice to the chorus. "I bet it doesn't even have a decent camera. Maya, you should upgrade to at least something from this decade. My little sister has a better phone than that." The five boys formed a loose semicircle, their expensive devices held casually in their hands like weapons. Maya finally turned around, her dark eyes meeting Brandon's blue ones with a steady gaze that surprised him. For a moment, the hallway seemed to quiet down, as if the other students sensed that something significant was about to happen. "It works fine for what I need," Maya said quietly, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside her chest. She slipped her phone into her back pocket, a gesture that somehow felt both defensive and defiant. Brandon's smile widened, sensing weakness. "What you need? Maya, what you need is to join the modern world. That phone is so old, I bet it can't even run half the apps we use. When was the last time you posted on Instagram? Oh wait, can that thing even handle Instagram?" The laughter that followed was sharper now, more cutting. Maya felt something shift inside her, a gear clicking into place, a switch being flipped. These boys had no idea who they were messing with. They saw a quiet girl with an old phone and assumed she was powerless, irrelevant, someone who could be pushed around without consequences. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Maya's jaw tightened as she looked at each of the five boys in turn, memorizing their faces, their smugness, their casual cruelty. "You know what?" she said, her voice gaining strength with each word. "You're absolutely right. My phone is old. But here's the thing about technology that maybe you haven't learned in all your expensive private tutoring sessions. It's not about having the newest device. It's about knowing how to use what you have." Brandon scoffed, exchanging glances with his friends. "Oh, really? And what exactly are you going to do with that dinosaur? Send smoke signals?" The circle of boys tightened, their laughter echoing off the lockers. Other students had begun to notice the confrontation, some stopping to watch, others pretending to organize their lockers while listening intently. Maya could feel their eyes on her, waiting to see if she would crumble under the pressure or fight back. "Tell you what," Maya said, pulling her phone back out and holding it up. The cracked screen caught the light, making the device look even more pathetic next to their pristine gadgets. "Since you're all so concerned about my technology, why don't we make this interesting?" Tyler raised an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" Maya's lips curved into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "A little competition. You five, with all your cutting-edge devices and unlimited data plans, versus me and my ancient piece of junk. Let's see who really knows how to use technology." Marcus laughed outright. "Are you serious? What could you possibly do that we can't do better and faster?" "That's what we're going to find out," Maya replied. "Give me 1 week. 1 week, and I'll show you exactly what this old phone can do. And when I'm done, maybe you'll think twice before underestimating someone based on their device." Jake shook his head in disbelief. "This is ridiculous. What are you going to do? Challenge us to a texting contest? See who can make calls faster?" "Oh, it'll be much more interesting than that," Maya said cryptically. "But don't worry, you won't have to do anything except go about your normal lives. Post your stories, update your feeds, and live your perfectly curated digital existences. I'll just be watching." The ominous tone in her voice seemed to register with Connor, who shifted uncomfortably. "Watching? What do you mean, watching?" Maya shouldered her backpack and started walking away, but she paused and looked back at them one more time. "You'll see. And boys, you might want to check your privacy settings." The five friends stood there for a moment after Maya disappeared around the corner, uncertain whether to laugh or feel concerned. Brandon was the first to break the silence. "Did she just threaten us with her flip phone?" "I think she's lost it," Tyler said, but there was something in his voice that suggested Maya was not as harmless as they had assumed. Meanwhile, Maya walked to her first period computer science class with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. Mrs. Rodriguez, the only teacher who really understood Maya's potential, noticed the change immediately as Maya took her seat at her usual computer terminal in the back of the room. "You seem different today, Maya," Mrs. Rodriguez observed as Maya booted up the school computer and flexed her fingers over the keyboard. "Everything's perfect, Mrs. Rodriguez. I think I finally found a project that's going to challenge me." For the next 45 minutes, while her classmates struggled with basic HTML coding, Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard with practiced precision. She wasn't working on the assigned project. Instead, she was laying the groundwork for something much more sophisticated. Her screen was filled with lines of code that would have impressed professional programmers, let alone high school students. She started by researching her 5 targets, using nothing more than the school's basic internet connection and her own extensive knowledge of social media platforms and their vulnerabilities. Brandon Matthews was easy to find. His social media presence was massive and completely public. He posted daily updates on Instagram, maintained an active Twitter account, and even had a YouTube channel where he reviews the latest gadgets with his father's money. Tyler Rodriguez was equally visible online. His Instagram account was a carefully curated collection of basketball highlights, party photos, and inspirational quotes. He used location services constantly, checking in everywhere he went, and seemed to have no concept of digital privacy. Marcus Kim, despite his political ambitions, had surprisingly poor digital security. His Twitter account, which he used to share his thoughts on current events and build his brand, was linked to several other accounts that revealed more personal information than he probably realized. Jake Peterson's online presence was the most extensive of all. The boy who had whispered cruel words about Maya's family's financial situation had no problem flaunting his wealth across multiple platforms. His accounts were full of photos of expensive vacations, designer clothes, and luxury cars, all posted with geotags and timestamps that revealed patterns in his daily life. Connor Walsh was the most challenging to research, as he tended to be a follower rather than a leader in digital spaces too. But Maya's skills went far beyond basic Google searches. She knew how to trace connections, follow digital breadcrumbs, and uncover information that people thought they had hidden or deleted. By the time the bell rang, Maya had filled several pages of a notebook with information about her targets. But more importantly, she had begun to map out their digital ecosystems, the apps they used, the networks they were part of, the devices they owned, and most crucially, the security vulnerabilities they had unknowingly exposed. Her phone might be old, but it was running custom firmware that Maya had installed herself. Beneath its cracked screen and worn case, the device was more powerful than Brandon and his friends could have imagined. Maya had modified its capabilities, installing tools and applications that turned her ancient piece of junk into a sophisticated piece of equipment that could do things their expensive phones couldn't even dream of. As she walked to her second period class, Maya began phase 2 of her plan. She opened a secure messaging app that she had coded herself, one that routed messages through multiple servers and encrypted them with algorithms that would take supercomputers years to break. Her first message was to a contact listed simply as Ghost. Need a favor. 5 targets, all high school students, all think they're untouchable. Time to teach them about digital humility. The response came back almost immediately. Details? Maya smiled as she typed back. Sending profiles now. I want them to understand that having money doesn't make you smart, and having the newest phone doesn't make you secure.
Ghost was Maya's online mentor, a figure she had met in an underground programming forum 2 years earlier. She didn't know Ghost's real name, age, or location, but she knew that Ghost was one of the most skilled ethical hackers she had ever encountered. Their relationship had started when Maya had solved a particularly challenging coding puzzle that Ghost had posted, impressing the mysterious figure enough to strike up a private conversation. Under Ghost's guidance, Maya had learned that hacking wasn't about causing chaos or stealing money. It was about understanding systems so thoroughly that you could expose their weaknesses and, ideally, help fix them. Ghost had taught her about responsible disclosure, about the difference between white hat and black hat hackers, and about how skills could be used to protect people rather than harm them. This situation with Brandon and his friends was the perfect opportunity to put those lessons into practice. By lunchtime, Maya had received a response from Ghost with additional intelligence on her 5 targets. It turned out that their digital footprints were even more extensive than she had initially discovered. Brandon had been using his father's corporate accounts for personal activities, leaving trails that connected to much larger networks. Tyler had been using the same password across multiple platforms, despite being the kind of person who posted about cybersecurity awareness on social media. Marcus had connected his political social media accounts to his personal email, creating vulnerabilities that could potentially expose sensitive information. Jake's love of checking in at expensive locations had created a detailed map of his daily activities, and Connor's attempts to mirror his friends had led him to download apps and create accounts with minimal security consideration. Maya spent her lunch period in the computer lab, ostensibly working on homework, but actually crafting the most sophisticated social engineering campaign of her young career. She wasn't planning to steal money or cause permanent damage. Instead, she was going to give Brandon and his friends a masterclass in digital consequences. Her first target was Tyler, whose Instagram account was about to become very interesting. Maya had discovered that Tyler used a photo editing app that had a known security vulnerability. The app stored photos in a poorly protected cloud storage system, and users who didn't understand the privacy settings often made their entire photo library accessible to anyone who knew how to look. Tyler, it turned out, had thousands of photos stored in this vulnerable system, including many that he had never posted publicly. Using her modified phone and a combination of legitimate security tools and custom scripts, Maya accessed Tyler's cloud storage account. What she found was a treasure trove of embarrassing photos. Tyler practicing his basketball moves in his bedroom mirror. Tyler crying after a particularly hard loss. Tyler in his pajamas making silly faces. And most damning of all, Tyler posting fake workout photos to make himself look more athletic than he actually was. Maya didn't download or steal any of the photos. Instead, she did something much more elegant. She created a simple script that would randomly post one of these embarrassing photos to Tyler's Instagram story every few hours, but with a twist. The post would appear to come from Tyler himself, as if he were intentionally sharing these unflattering moments with his hundreds of followers. The beauty of Maya's approach was that Tyler would be able to delete the posts once he noticed them, but the damage would already have been done. His carefully curated image as the cool, confident athlete would be shattered as his followers saw the reality behind the facade. But Maya wasn't finished with Tyler yet. She had also discovered that he had been using a fake fitness tracking app to inflate his workout statistics, and that he had been buying followers and likes for his social media accounts. Maya created a second script that would gradually expose this fraud by posting comments on his photos that revealed the truth about his artificial engagement. Brandon presented a different kind of challenge. His social media accounts were more carefully managed, probably with help from his father's marketing team. But Maya had found something even more interesting. Brandon had been using his family's business Wi-Fi network to download copyrighted content, and he had been selling some of his father's promotional products online without permission. Maya crafted a campaign that would slowly reveal Brandon's hypocritical behavior. She created anonymous accounts that began commenting on his tech review videos, pointing out inconsistencies in his reviews, and suggesting that his opinions might be influenced by his financial interests. She also arranged for Brandon to receive a series of official-looking emails about intellectual property violations, digital copyright infringement, and business ethics investigations. Marcus, with his political ambitions, required the most delicate touch. Maya discovered that he had been using multiple fake accounts to artificially boost his own political posts and attack his perceived rivals. Worse yet, some of his private messages revealed opinions that directly contradicted his public political positions. Maya's approach with Marcus was to gradually expose this duplicity by creating situations where his fake accounts would accidentally interact with each other, revealing the web of deception he had created. She also arranged for some of his more controversial private opinions to be accidentally posted to his public accounts, not by hacking his accounts directly, but by manipulating the scheduling tools he used to manage his social media presence. Jake's punishment was perhaps the most poetic. The boy who had whispered cruel comments about Maya's family's finances was about to learn about economic vulnerability himself. Maya had discovered that Jake had been using his father's credit card information to make purchases in mobile games and apps, racking up hundreds of dollars in unauthorized charges. Maya created a script that would gradually expose Jake's digital spending habits by posting screenshots of his mobile game achievements to his social media accounts, along with the amounts of money he had spent to achieve them. The posts would reveal not only his wasteful spending, but also his lack of gaming skill despite his expensive shortcuts. Connor, as the follower of the group, received a punishment that reflected his passive complicity in the bullying. Maya arranged for Connor's own private messages to be gradually exposed through his social media accounts, showing his followers exactly the kind of person he was when he thought no one was watching. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. By the end of the day, Maya laid the groundwork for a campaign that would systematically dismantle the digital personas that Brandon and his friends had so carefully constructed. But her plan went beyond mere revenge. She was creating an educational experience that would teach them about digital privacy, online responsibility, and the consequences of their actions. As she packed up her old phone and headed home, she felt a sense of satisfaction that had nothing to do with cruelty and everything to do with justice. Brandon and his friends had underestimated her based on her device, her financial situation, and her quiet demeanor. They were about to learn that in the digital age, knowledge and skill mattered far more than money and status symbols. The real lesson was just beginning.
Maya's alarm clock buzzed at 5:30 a.m., but she was already awake, her laptop open beside her bed as she monitored the first phase of her digital campaign. Her room, tucked away in the basement of her family's home, looked more like a small tech laboratory than a typical teenager's bedroom. Multiple monitors displayed scrolling code, network diagrams, and social media feeds, while cables and hardware modifications covered every available surface. The beauty of Maya's plan was its subtlety. Unlike the dramatic, explosive cyber attacks depicted in movies, real digital warfare was often slow, methodical, and almost invisible until the damage was already done. She had spent the night fine-tuning her scripts and ensuring that every action would appear to be the result of the target's own mistakes rather than external manipulation. At 6:15 a.m., Tyler Rodriguez woke up to 17 notifications on his phone. His Instagram story had automatically posted a video of him practicing basketball shots in his bedroom, missing 12 consecutive three-pointers while wearing nothing but boxer shorts and mismatched socks. The timestamp showed it had been posted at 2:17 a.m. when Tyler had been fast asleep. Tyler frantically deleted the post, his face burning with embarrassment as he scrolled through the comments that had already begun appearing. His carefully maintained image as the school's basketball star was cracking, and he couldn't understand how the video had been posted to his account. He checked his phone for signs of hacking, changed his password, and assumed it must have been some kind of technical glitch. But Maya was just getting started with Tyler. Throughout the morning, as he got ready for school and tried to put the embarrassing post behind him, his phone continued to betray him. A photo of him crying after a particularly devastating loss appeared briefly on his Twitter feed. A screenshot of his fake fitness app showing that he had logged 0 actual workouts while claiming to exercise 3 hours daily appeared as his Instagram story for exactly 7 minutes before he noticed and deleted it. Each post was timed perfectly, long enough for his friends and followers to see, but brief enough that Tyler could dismiss them as technical errors. The psychological impact was devastating. Tyler began second-guessing every notification, every beep from his phone, wondering what embarrassing content might be appearing on his profiles without his knowledge. Meanwhile, Brandon Matthews was experiencing his own digital nightmare. The boy who had mocked Maya's old phone was discovering that his expensive device and unlimited data plan couldn't protect him from the consequences of his own poor digital hygiene. Brandon's morning routine was interrupted by an email that appeared to be from his father's business attorney questioning several recent online purchases made using company accounts. The email detailed specific transactions that Brandon had made, including premium app purchases, online gaming expenditures, and subscription services that had nothing to do with the family business. While Brandon was still processing this first email, a second one arrived from what appeared to be a digital rights management company, questioning the authenticity of several tech reviews he had posted on his YouTube channel. The email included detailed analytics showing discrepancies between his claimed testing periods and the actual release dates of products, suggesting that his reviews were based on marketing materials rather than hands-on experience. Brandon's confidence began to waver as he realized that his digital activities were being scrutinized in ways he had never expected. He had always assumed that his family's wealth and connections would protect him from consequences, but someone was systematically exposing the gaps between his public persona and private reality. Marcus Kim discovered his own problems during his morning routine of checking political news and updating his social media accounts. His carefully scheduled tweets designed to build his image as a thoughtful political commentator had been subtly altered. A post about supporting small businesses had been modified to include details about his family's tax avoidance strategies. A tweet about educational equality now included information about his expensive private tutoring and college prep services. Most damaging of all, his various fake accounts had begun interacting with each other in ways that revealed their connections. Account names that Marcus had thought were safely anonymous were now clearly linked, showing his followers that their trusted political commentator had been artificially inflating his own influence and attacking his classmates from behind fake profiles. Jake Peterson's morning was interrupted by a text from his father asking about nearly $800 in mobile game purchases that had appeared on the family credit card statement. Jake's face went pale as he realized that somehow his hidden gaming expenditures had been exposed, but that was only the beginning of his problems. His Instagram account had begun posting screenshots of his mobile game profiles, complete with the amounts he had spent to achieve various rankings and unlock premium content. The posts revealed not only his excessive spending, but also his complete lack of skill. Jake had spent hundreds of dollars on a strategy game only to rank in the bottom 10% of players. Connor Walsh, the quieter member of the group, was experiencing the most psychologically devastating attack. His social media accounts had begun sharing screenshots of private group chat messages where he had spread gossip about classmates, shared personal information that had been told to him in confidence, and made cruel comments about other students' appearances and family situations. The posts appeared sporadically throughout the morning, always deleted within minutes, but not before they were seen by the very classmates Connor had been gossiping about. His phone buzzed constantly with confused and angry messages from people who had considered him a friend, asking why he was suddenly sharing their private conversations. By the time the 5 friends arrived at school that Tuesday morning, each of them was dealing with their own crisis. They found each other at their usual spot near the water fountain, but instead of their typical confident swagger, they huddled together with worried expressions and hushed voices. "Something's wrong with my phone," Tyler said, his usual bravado replaced by genuine concern. "Mine too," Brandon admitted reluctantly. "I'm getting emails about business stuff, and my YouTube analytics are showing things that don't make sense." Marcus nodded grimly. "My Twitter-scheduled tweets got changed somehow, and there are accounts interacting with my posts that I never authorized." Jake looked around nervously before speaking. "My dad found out about my game purchases. Somehow they got linked to my social media accounts. The posts keep showing up and disappearing." Connor was the most visibly shaken. "Guys, people are asking me about private messages. Messages I never meant to share. It's like my phone is betraying me." The five friends stood in stunned silence for a moment, the full implications of their situation beginning to sink in. Then, Brandon's eyes narrowed as he remembered the confrontation from the previous day. "Maya," he said quietly, his voice filled with a mixture of recognition and disbelief. The realization hit the five boys like a digital avalanche. Maya Chen, the quiet girl with the cracked screen phone whom they had mocked and dismissed, was somehow behind the systematic dismantling of their online lives. But understanding who was responsible and proving it were two entirely different challenges. "That's impossible," Tyler protested, though his voice lacked conviction. "She has that ancient phone. There's no way she could do something like this." Marcus, his political instincts kicking in, began analyzing the situation more strategically. "Think about it. The timing is too perfect to be coincidental. We humiliate her on Monday, and by Tuesday morning we're all having digital problems? That's not chance." Jake looked around nervously, still processing the embarrassment of his gaming expenditures being exposed. "But how? I mean, I've got enterprise-level security on my accounts. My dad's company set everything up with professional IT support." Brandon's jaw tightened as the implications became clear. Professional IT support doesn't mean anything if she's smarter than the professionals. We never actually looked at her grades, did we? We just assumed she was a nobody because she couldn't afford a new phone. Connor, still reeling from the exposure of his private messages, added quietly, "She's in advanced computer science. Mrs. Rodriguez is always talking about her programming skills." The five boys spent their first period classes distracted and anxious, constantly checking their phones for new embarrassing posts while trying to figure out how to stop Maya's digital assault. But Maya had anticipated their reaction, and she had prepared for the next phase of her campaign. During lunch, Maya sat alone at her usual table in the corner of the cafeteria, her old phone resting on the table beside her lunch tray. She could feel the eyes of Brandon and his friends on her from across the room, could see them whispering among themselves and shooting glances in her direction. Their expensive devices were clustered on their table like weapons they didn't know how to use effectively. Maya opened her phone and began typing a message in a group chat that she had created specifically for this moment. The chat included several anonymous accounts that she controlled, giving her the ability to create the illusion of a larger network of supporters. But the real genius of Maya's next move wasn't technical, it was psychological. She posted a simple status update on her rarely used Instagram account. "Funny how people who think they understand technology are the easiest to fool. Old phone, new tricks. Hashtag digital karma, hashtag tech skills, hashtag underestimate me." The post was public, tagged with enough keywords to ensure that Brandon and his friends would see it, and designed to provoke them into making their next mistake. Maya knew that bullies like Brandon couldn't resist the urge to escalate when challenged, and she was counting on their predictable reaction. Within minutes, Brandon was on his feet, stalking across the cafeteria towards Maya's table. His four friends followed reluctantly, aware that they were walking into what felt increasingly like a trap, but unable to resist the social pressure to support their leader. "Very clever, Maya," Brandon said, his voice pitched loud enough to draw attention from nearby tables. "We know what you're doing." Maya looked up from her phone with an expression of innocent confusion. "I'm sorry, what am I doing? Eating lunch?" "Don't play dumb," Tyler interjected, his earlier confidence cracking under the stress of constant social media surveillance. "The posts, the emails, the messages, you're messing with our accounts somehow." Maya set down her phone deliberately, making sure the cracked screen was visible to everyone watching the confrontation. "With this?" she asked, gesturing to her device. "You told me yesterday that this phone was too old to run modern apps. How exactly would I be able to mess with your accounts using technology from the Stone Age?" The logic of her question hung in the air like a challenge. Several other students had begun to notice the confrontation, and Maya could see phones being raised to record what was happening. She had orchestrated this moment perfectly. Brandon and his friends were about to make their situation much worse. Marcus, trying to be the voice of reason, stepped forward.
Look, Maya, if this is about yesterday, we were just joking around. Maybe we came across as jerks, but we didn't mean anything serious by it. Joking around? Maya's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the surface. You made fun of my family's financial situation. You mocked my phone, my clothes, my life. You did it publicly, in front of half the school because you thought I was powerless to fight back. Jake shifted uncomfortably, remembering his whispered comments about Maya's family. We didn't mean to be that harsh. Maya stood up slowly, her phone clutched in her hand. You know what the funny thing is? You're right about my phone. It is old. It is cracked. It probably couldn't run half the apps you use for your social media empire. But here's what you never bothered to learn about technology. It's not the device that matters. It's the person using it. She held up her phone, letting the cafeteria see its worn case and damaged screen. This phone runs custom firmware that I installed myself. It has capabilities that your expensive toys don't even dream of. It connects to networks and systems that require knowledge, not money, to access. And right now, it's connected to every single one of your digital lives. The cafeteria had gone quiet, students sensing that they were witnessing something significant. Maya's voice carried clearly in the silence, and several phones were now recording the confrontation from multiple angles. You want to know if I'm responsible for your problems? Let me ask you this. How many of you actually understand how your devices work? Do you know what information they collect about you? Do you understand what you're agreeing to when you accept those terms and conditions without reading them? Do you have any idea how many vulnerabilities you've exposed by linking all your accounts together? Brandon's face was red with anger and embarrassment. You can't just attack people because your feelings got hurt. That's illegal. We could report you. Maya smiled, the expression both sad and dangerous. Report me for what? For exposing information that you made publicly available? For revealing behavior that you engaged in willingly? Everything that's happening to you is the result of your own actions and your own poor digital security. I'm just helping you understand the consequences. Connor, the most anxious of the group, finally spoke up. How do we make it stop? Maya's expression softened slightly. That's the first intelligent question any of you have asked. The answer is simple. You learn. You take responsibility for your actions, both online and offline. You treat people with respect instead of using your privilege to hurt them. And maybe, just maybe, you figure out that having money doesn't make you better than anyone else. She gathered her lunch tray and stood to leave, but paused and looked back at the 5 boys one more time. Oh, and gentlemen, this is just phase 1. You haven't seen anything yet.
The confrontation in the cafeteria had been recorded by at least 6 different students, and by the end of the school day, videos of Maya's calm, devastating response to the 5 bullies were circulating throughout Lincoln High. The clip showed Brandon and his friends looking increasingly desperate and foolish as Maya systematically dismantled their assumptions about technology, power, and privilege. Maya returned home that afternoon to find her parents waiting in the kitchen, their expressions a mixture of concern and confusion. Mr. and Mrs. Chen had received a phone call from the school principal asking them to come in for a meeting the following day regarding their daughter's involvement in cyberbullying incidents. Maya, her mother said gently in Mandarin, the principal says there are accusations that you have been using computers to hurt other students. Is this true? Maya sat down at the kitchen table, her old phone and laptop bag beside her. She had been dreading this conversation, knowing that her parents' limited understanding of technology would make it difficult to explain the nuances of her situation. But she also knew that she needed their support for what was coming next. Mom, Dad, she began, switching to English to ensure she could express herself precisely. Those boys have been bullying me for months. Yesterday, they decided to humiliate me in front of everyone because of my phone, because of our family's financial situation. They thought they could hurt me without consequences. Mr. Chen frowned, his protective instincts awakening. They made fun of you because of money? Because we cannot afford expensive phone? Maya nodded, feeling the familiar ache in her chest when she saw the hurt in her father's eyes. They called it a technological marvel and said they felt bad that I was stuck in the Stone Age. They suggested starting a GoFundMe to help me join the 21st century. Mrs. Chen's face hardened. Despite working double shifts as a hospital custodian and rarely involving herself in school politics, she had fierce protective instincts when it came to her daughter. These boys think money makes them better than our Maya? They do not know what kind of daughter we raised. That's exactly what I showed them, Maya, said Maya quietly. I used my skills to teach them that intelligence and knowledge are more powerful than expensive devices. Everything I did was legal, Mom. I didn't steal anything or break any laws. I just revealed the truth about who they really are behind their social media profiles. Mr. Chen, who worked nights at an electronics recycling facility and understood more about technology than his wife, leaned forward with interest. What exactly did you do, Maya? Maya opened her laptop and began showing her parents the evidence she had compiled. She explained how the 5 boys had made themselves vulnerable through poor digital security, how their arrogant assumptions about technology had left them exposed, and how she had systematically revealed their hypocrisies and lies. You see, Maya said, pointing to screenshots of Tyler's fake fitness posts. He was lying to hundreds of followers about his workout routines. And Brandon was reviewing products he had never actually tested, misleading people who trusted his opinions. Marcus was using fake accounts to attack other students and inflate his own popularity. Mrs. Chen studied the evidence carefully, her expression growing more determined with each revelation. These boys are bullies and liars, and now they are angry because you showed everyone the truth. Exactly, Maya confirmed. And tomorrow, when we meet with the principal, they're going to try to make me look like the villain because they can't handle the consequences of their own actions. Mr. Chen closed the laptop and looked at his daughter with pride. Maya, you are a smart girl, smarter than these rich boys who think money solves everything. But you must be careful. People with power do not like to lose face. I know, Dad, but I can't let them think they can hurt people without consequences. If I back down now, they'll just find someone else to target. That evening, Maya continued phase 2 of her campaign with surgical precision. She had spent hours studying each target's digital behavior patterns, and she knew exactly when and how to strike for maximum psychological impact. Tyler's Instagram account began displaying a series of posts that revealed the extent of his artificial social media presence. Screenshots appeared showing his purchase history for fake followers, bot-generated comments, and engagement manipulation services. Each post included timestamps and transaction details that made it impossible for Tyler to deny the evidence. But Maya's masterstroke was revealing Tyler's private messages with several social media marketing companies where he had complained about not getting enough authentic-looking fake engagement for his money. The posts showed Tyler obsessing over his online image to a degree that revealed deep insecurities beneath his confident facade. Brandon's digital punishment was more sophisticated, targeting his family's business reputation as well as his personal brand. Maya had discovered that Brandon had been using his father's company email account to send inflammatory messages on gaming forums and tech review sites. She began forwarding these messages to the company's official social media accounts, creating the impression that the business was associated with Brandon's juvenile online behavior. Additionally, Maya arranged for Brandon's YouTube channel to be flooded with comments from newly created accounts that asked pointed questions about his review methodology, his relationship with tech companies, and the authenticity of his claimed expertise. The comments were polite, but devastating, systematically undermining his credibility as a tech influencer. Marcus faced the most complex assault on his digital identity. Maya had created a network of fake political accounts that began engaging with his posts in ways that revealed the contradictions in his stated beliefs. The accounts would quote his private messages alongside his public tweets, showing followers exactly how Marcus's private opinions differed from his public political positions. Maya also arranged for Marcus's fake accounts to begin arguing with each other in public forums, creating confusing exchanges where his various online personas contradicted and attacked each other. The result was a digital house of cards that collapsed as followers began to trace the connections between accounts. Jake's punishment continued to focus on his financial irresponsibility and lack of genuine skill in the games where he had spent so much money. Maya Scripps began posting detailed breakdowns of his spending in various mobile games alongside his actual performance statistics. The posts revealed that Jake had spent over $2,000 in the past year on games where he consistently ranked in the bottom percentiles. Most embarrassingly, Maya revealed Jake's attempt to sell rare in-game items that he had purchased rather than earned, violating the terms of service for multiple gaming platforms, and potentially getting his accounts permanently banned. Connor's psychological torment was the most personal, as Maya continued to expose his pattern of betraying confidences and spreading gossip. His social media accounts began sharing screenshots of private conversations where he had promised to keep secrets, only to immediately share that information with others. The posts revealed Connor as someone who couldn't be trusted with personal information, who used other people's vulnerabilities for social currency, and who had been systematically documenting and sharing private moments from his supposed friends' lives. By Wednesday morning, all 5 boys were experiencing a level of digital chaos that would have challenged professional IT security teams. Their carefully constructed online personas were crumbling, their social media metrics were plummeting, and their reputations were being systematically destroyed by their own documented behavior. But Maya wasn't finished yet. Phase 2 was just the beginning, and she had saved her most devastating revelations for the meeting with the principal. The boys had no idea that their attempt to get Maya in trouble was about to backfire spectacularly, revealing not just their own digital crimes, but also the extent of their real-world bullying behavior. The old phone that they had mocked was about to become the instrument of their complete digital downfall. Principal Johnson's office had never felt smaller than it did on Wednesday afternoon when Maya and her parents sat across from him, facing Brandon Matthews and his father, Richard Matthews, the wealthy tech entrepreneur. The other 4 boys and their parents had been scheduled for separate meetings, but Mr. Matthews had used his influence to arrange a joint session, clearly expecting that his financial contributions to the school would help resolve the situation in his son's favor. Maya had prepared for this moment carefully. Her old phone sat in her lap, its cracked screen reflecting the fluorescent lights, while her laptop bag rested at her feet. She had spent the previous evening organizing evidence that would not only prove her innocence, but expose the true extent of the bullying she had endured. "Now then," Principal Johnson began, adjusting his glasses nervously as he looked between the 2 families. "We're here because there have been serious allegations of cyberbullying involving both students. Mr. Matthews has expressed concerns that Maya has been using her computer skills to harass his son and his friends." Richard Matthews leaned forward, his expensive suit and confident demeanor filling the room with an aura of entitlement. "Principal Johnson, what we're dealing with here is clearly a case of cyber terrorism. This girl has somehow compromised my son's social media accounts, violated his privacy, and engaged in what can only be described as digital stalking." Maya's father, wearing his best shirt and tie despite working a night shift, straightened in his chair. "My daughter is not terrorist. She is good girl with excellent grades who studies computer science. With all due respect, Mr. Chen, your daughter may be intelligent, but intelligence without proper moral guidance can be dangerous. Brandon has shown me evidence of systematic attacks on his digital presence, coordinated harassment campaigns, and privacy violations that would be felonies if committed by an adult." Principal Johnson looked uncomfortable as he shuffled through a stack of printed screenshots that Brandon had provided. "Maya, these images appear to show private information about Brandon and his friends being posted to social media without their consent. Can you explain how this happened?" Maya had been waiting for this question carefully. She pulled out her phone and opened a folder of screenshots that she had prepared specifically for this meeting. "Principal Johnson, before we discuss any alleged privacy violations, I think you should see the evidence of the harassment and bullying that led to this situation." She handed him a tablet that she had borrowed from the school's computer lab, loaded with a comprehensive documentation of the past 3 months of abuse she had endured. The evidence included screenshots of social media posts where the 5 boys had mocked students for their financial situations, private group chat messages where they had shared cruel commentary about classmates' appearances and family circumstances, and most damaging of all, a detailed timeline of their campaign of harassment against Maya herself. "What you're looking at," Maya explained calmly, "is a pattern of systematic bullying that these 5 students have been engaging in for months. They target students who don't have expensive devices, who come from working families, or who don't fit into their social circle." Principal Johnson's expression grew serious as he scrolled through the evidence. Maya had organized everything chronologically, with timestamps, witness accounts, and cross-references that painted a clear picture of sustained harassment. Brandon shifted uncomfortably in his seat, recognizing some of the screenshots from group chats that he had thought were private. Those messages were taken out of context, and how did she even get access to private conversations?" Maya's smile was ice cold. "The same way I accessed all the other information you're complaining about. You made it publicly available through your own poor digital security practices." She pulled out her laptop and connected it to the room's presentation screen, displaying the detailed breakdown of each boy's digital vulnerabilities. "Brandon, you used the same password across 17 different accounts. Tyler, you enabled location tracking on every app and posted your daily schedule publicly. Marcus, you linked your personal email to your political accounts and used your real name as your recovery email for your anonymous accounts." Richard Matthews interrupted, his voice rising. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. She's demonstrating her ability to violate privacy and access private information." "Actually, Mr. Matthews," Maya continued, her voice remaining steady, "your daughter and his friends violated their own privacy through careless digital behavior. Everything I accessed was made available through their own actions. They agreed to terms of service they didn't read, they shared passwords between platforms, and they connected accounts in ways that created security vulnerabilities." Maya's mother spoke for the first time, her English careful but clear. "My daughter did not break into anything. She showed them that their own choices made their information not private." "Furthermore," Maya continued, advancing to the next slide, "let's discuss the specific incident that triggered this situation." The screen displayed a video file that Maya had recovered from security cameras and social media posts. "This is footage from Monday morning when these 5 students surrounded me, mocked my family's financial situation, and humiliated me in front of other classmates." The video played, showing the confrontation in the hallway, with clear audio of Brandon's mocking comments about Maya's phone and Jake's cruel whispers about her family's inability to afford newer technology. Principal Johnson's face grew increasingly grave as he watched the systematic bullying unfold. "Now," Maya said, switching to another slide, "let's examine what happened to each of these students after Monday morning." Tyler's Instagram began showing photos that he had stored in a poorly secured cloud service, photos that he had chosen to store in a system that he didn't understand. Brandon began receiving emails questioning business practices that he had been engaging in using company accounts. Marcus discovered that his fake social media accounts had been connected in ways that he hadn't realized. She paused, looking directly at Richard Matthews. "Mr. Matthews, your son has been using your company's email system to send inflammatory messages on gaming forums. He's been posting product reviews for items he's never actually tested, and he's been using business accounts for personal purchases, creating potential legal liability for your company." Richard Matthews' face went pale as Maya pulled up evidence of Brandon's misuse of company resources. "How could you possibly have access to company communications?" "I don't," she replied simply. "Brandon posted this information himself on public forums using accounts that were linked to his personal social media profiles. Your company's IT security team might want to review their policy on personal use of business accounts."
Principal Johnson had been taking notes throughout Maya's presentation, and his expression had shifted from concern about Maya to serious worry about the 5 boys and their families.
Maya, while I understand that you were responding to harassment, the methods you used to expose this information raise serious questions about digital ethics and appropriate responses to bullying. Maya's father leaned forward, his voice firm despite his limited English. My daughter showed truth. They hurt her because they think money makes them better. She showed everyone who they really are. That's exactly right, Dad, Maya said, switching to her final slide. Principal Johnson, everything I did was legal and ethical. I didn't hack any accounts, I didn't steal any information, and I didn't cause any permanent damage. I simply revealed information that these students had made available through their own choices and actions. She stood up, her old phone in her hand. They mocked me for having an old device, assuming that expensive technology makes someone superior. They never bothered to learn that I have a 4.0 GPA in advanced computer science, that I've been accepted to MIT's early admission program, or that I've been working with cybersecurity professionals on ethical hacking projects. The room fell silent as the implications of Maya's words sank in. Richard Matthews realized that his son had picked a fight with someone far more capable than any of them had imagined, and Principal Johnson understood that he was dealing with a victim who had used extraordinary skills to defend herself against systematic bullying. Brandon finally spoke, his voice small and defeated. "We didn't know. We just thought you thought I was powerless," Maya finished. "You thought that because my family doesn't have money, I couldn't fight back. You were wrong." The meeting with Principal Johnson had lasting consequences that rippled through Lincoln High School over the following weeks. After reviewing Maya's comprehensive evidence of systematic bullying, the school administration was forced to confront the reality that they had allowed a culture of harassment to flourish among students from wealthy families. Brandon Matthews found himself facing the most severe consequences. His misuse of his father's company accounts had created legal complications that extended far beyond high school discipline. Richard Matthews, humiliated by the revelation of his son's poor judgment and digital irresponsibility, imposed restrictions that went well beyond anything the school could have mandated. Brandon's access to company resources was permanently revoked. His allowance was cut to a fraction of its previous amount, and most painfully for someone who had built his identity around having the newest technology, his devices were downgraded to basic models that could only handle essential functions. The iPhone Pro Max that he had used to mock Maya's old phone was replaced with a simple device that could make calls and send text messages, nothing more. The punishment was particularly fitting because it forced Brandon to experience the kind of technological limitation that he had used to humiliate Maya. But unlike Maya, who had transformed her old phone into a powerful tool through knowledge and skill, Brandon lacked the technical expertise to maximize his device's potential. Tyler Rodriguez's social media empire collapsed entirely within a week of Maya's revelations. The exposure of his fake followers, artificial engagement, and misleading fitness posts led to his accounts being flagged by multiple platforms for violation of authenticity policies. His basketball teammates, who had initially admired his social media success, began questioning whether his athletic achievements were as genuine as his online presence had been fake. The basketball coach, Coach Martinez, called Tyler into his office for a conversation about integrity and leadership that left the young man genuinely questioning his priorities for the first time in years. Tyler realized that his obsession with online validation had distracted him from developing real skills and genuine relationships. Marcus Kim's political ambitions suffered perhaps the most comprehensive defeat. The revelation of his fake accounts and artificial influence campaigns destroyed his credibility with the student government and adult political mentors who had been considering him for internship opportunities. Several local political organizations that had been following his social media activities quietly removed him from their youth outreach programs. More importantly, Marcus was forced to confront the disconnect between his public political positions and his private actions.
The exposure of his contradictory private messages led to difficult conversations with classmates who had trusted him, and Marcus began to understand that authentic leadership required consistency between public and private behavior. Jake Peterson's financial irresponsibility became a family crisis that extended well beyond his gaming expenditures. His parents discovered that their son had been using credit card information for unauthorized purchases totaling nearly $3,000 over the past year. The revelation led to family counseling sessions and a complete restructuring of Jake's financial access and accountability. Jake was required to get a part-time job to pay back his gaming expenditures, and the experience of earning money through actual work gave him a new perspective on the value of financial resources. For someone who had casually mocked Maya's family's economic situation, the reality of working for minimum wage was a humbling education in economic privilege. Connor Walsh has faced perhaps the most socially devastating consequences. The exposure of his pattern of sharing private conversations and betraying confidences led to him being ostracized by many of his classmates. Friends who had trusted him with personal information realized that Connor had been documenting and sharing their vulnerabilities for social entertainment. The loss of social connections was particularly hard for Connor because his identity had been built around being included in popular groups. He was forced to confront the reality that his acceptance had been based on his willingness to provide gossip and entertainment at other people's expense. Meanwhile, Maya's reputation at Lincoln High School was transformed completely. The video of her calm, intelligent response to the 5 bullies in the cafeteria had gone viral within the local community, and Maya found herself being approached by classmates who wanted to learn more about computer science and cybersecurity. Mrs. Rodriguez, Maya's computer science teacher, arranged for Maya to give a presentation to the entire school about digital literacy, online privacy, and cybersecurity. The presentation was scheduled for the following month, and Maya began preparing a comprehensive educational program that would help her fellow students avoid the kind of digital vulnerabilities that had made the 5 boys easy targets. But Maya's most significant transformation was personal. The experience of standing up to her bullies had given her a confidence that extended beyond her technical skills. She began participating more actively in class discussions, joined the school's cybersecurity club, and even started a peer tutoring program for students who wanted to learn programming. Her parents, who had always been proud of their daughter's academic achievements, were amazed to see Maya's social confidence growing alongside her technical reputation. Mr. and Mrs. Chen realized that their daughter's response to the bullying situation had been not just about defending herself, but about establishing her place in a community that had previously overlooked her. The old phone that had started the entire controversy became something of a legend at Lincoln High School. Maya continued using it, but now it was seen as a symbol of her technical prowess rather than a mark of economic limitation. Several students asked Maya to teach them how to modify their own devices, and Maya began offering workshops on hardware optimization and custom firmware installation. Ghost, Maya's online mentor, sent Maya a message that simply read, "Impressive work. You've learned that the most powerful hack isn't breaking into systems, it's getting people to understand the consequences of their own actions." Maya realized that her response to the bullying had accomplished something more important than revenge. She had created an educational moment that would benefit not just her 5 former tormentors, but the entire school community. The experience had taught everyone involved about digital responsibility, the importance of treating people with respect regardless of their economic situation, and the reality that intelligence and skill mattered more than expensive possessions.
But most importantly, Maya had learned that standing up for herself didn't require becoming cruel or vindictive. She had used her skills to reveal truth rather than cause harm, to educate rather than destroy, and to create positive change rather than simply inflict punishment. The 5 boys who had mocked her old phone had learned a lesson that no amount of money could buy. That in the digital age, knowledge was the ultimate currency, and respect was something that had to be earned rather than purchased. 3 weeks after the confrontation in Principal Johnson's office, Lincoln High School had settled into a new equilibrium. The story of Maya Chen and her response to the 5 bullies had become part of the school's unofficial legend, told and retold with varying degrees of accuracy, but always with the same underlying message. Underestimating people based on their possessions was a dangerous mistake. Maya found herself in the unexpected position of being one of the most respected students at Lincoln High. Her advanced computer science skills, which had previously been known only to Mrs. Rodriguez and a few dedicated classmates, were now recognized throughout the school. She had been invited to join the academic decathlon team, the debate club, and even the student council, though she politely declined most of these opportunities, preferring to focus on her studies and her growing cybersecurity education program. The 5 boys who had once terrorized her were experiencing varying degrees of personal growth and genuine change. Brandon Matthews, stripped of his technological advantages and financial cushions, had been forced to develop actual skills and genuine knowledge. His Tech Review YouTube channel had been discontinued, but he had begun working with his father's IT department to learn about business cybersecurity from the ground up. The experience of having his digital vulnerabilities exposed had given Brandon a new appreciation for the complexity of technology and the importance of understanding rather than simply consuming digital products. He approached Maya one afternoon after computer science class, his expression humble and uncertain. "Maya," he said quietly, "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything from you, but I was wondering if you might be willing to help me understand what I did wrong. Not just with the bullying, but with the digital security stuff. I realize I don't actually know anything about the technology I was so arrogant about." Maya studied his face carefully, looking for signs of manipulation or false sincerity. What she saw instead was genuine humiliation and a desire to learn that reminded her of her own early curiosity about computer systems. "Brandon," she said finally, "I'll consider it. But understand that learning about technology isn't about buying the most expensive devices or getting access to premium features. It's about understanding how systems work, respecting the complexity of digital environments, and taking responsibility for your digital footprint." Brandon nodded earnestly. "I'm starting to understand that. My dad has me working with the company's IT team now, and they've been showing me how much damage I could have caused with my careless behavior. I'm lucky you chose to educate me instead of destroying me." Tyler Rodriguez had perhaps made the most dramatic changes to his lifestyle. The collapse of his artificial social media presence had forced him to confront his deep insecurities about his athletic abilities and social status. He had begun working with a counselor to address his addiction to social media validation, and he had refocused his energy on actually improving his basketball skills, rather than just documenting them online. Tyler's transformation was particularly evident in his approach to social media. His new accounts were private, focused on genuine connections with friends and family rather than public performance. He had even started a small support group for student athletes who struggled with social media pressure and the temptation to create artificial online personas. Marcus Kim's political ambitions had been temporarily derailed, but the experience had led him to a more authentic understanding of leadership and public service. He had begun volunteering with local community organizations, working directly with people rather than crafting political messages about them. The disconnect between his public political positions and private behavior had been replaced by a genuine commitment to consistency and integrity. Marcus approached Maya during lunch one day, carrying a folder of research about digital privacy legislation. "Maya, I've been studying the legal aspects of what happened to us, and I think there might be opportunities to help create better policies about digital literacy education in schools. Would you be interested in working together on something like that?" Maya was intrigued by the possibility of turning her experience into broader educational reform. "What did you have in mind?" "A proposal for mandatory digital citizenship classes, better cybersecurity education, and policies that protect students from the kind of harassment we engaged in. I know I don't have any credibility on this topic yet, but I think your expertise combined with policy research could make a real difference."
Jake Peterson's transformation was perhaps the most fundamental. The experience of working to pay back his gaming expenditures had given him a completely new perspective on money, work, and privilege. He had taken a job at a local computer repair shop, where his newfound respect for technology and his desire to understand rather than simply consume digital products made him a surprisingly effective employee. His boss, an elderly man who had been repairing computers since the 1990s, became something of a mentor to the teenager. Under his guidance, Jake learned about the history of computing, the craftsmanship involved in building and maintaining technology, and the satisfaction that came from solving problems through knowledge and effort rather than purchasing solutions.
Connor Walsh's journey was the most difficult, as rebuilding trust after betraying confidences required patient, consistent effort over time. He had begun seeing the school counselor regularly, working to understand the insecurities that had led him to use other people's vulnerabilities for social currency. His path back to genuine friendships was slow, but Connor was learning the difference between being included and being respected. Connor approached Maya with the most hesitant request. "Maya, I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. I shared private information, I gossiped, I was cruel, but I was wondering if you might be willing to help me understand how to protect other people's digital privacy. I want to learn how to be someone who protects information instead of sharing it." Maya was moved by the genuine remorse in Connor's voice. "Connor, rebuilding trust takes time, and it requires consistent action, not just words. But if you're serious about learning to protect rather than violate privacy, I can help you understand the technical aspects. The ethical aspects, though, those have to come from you." As the school year progressed, Maya's cybersecurity education program grew into a formal part of Lincoln High's curriculum. She worked with Mrs. Rodriguez to develop a comprehensive course that covered not just technical skills, but digital ethics, online responsibility, and the social implications of technology. The course became one of the most popular electives at the school, attracting students who wanted to understand the technology they used every day rather than simply consuming it. Maya found that teaching others helped her understand her own knowledge more deeply, and she discovered a passion for education that would influence her future career choices. Maya's old phone, meanwhile, had become something of a mascot for the program. She continued using it, but now it was recognized as a symbol of the difference between having technology and understanding technology. Students would often ask to examine the device, amazed by the capabilities that Maya had unlocked through custom firmware and creative programming. The phone represented something important about Maya's approach to technology and life, that limitations could be overcome through knowledge, creativity, and persistence, and that true power came not from having the most expensive tools, but from understanding how to use whatever tools were available. By spring semester, the 5 boys who had once mocked Maya's old phone had learned lessons that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. They had discovered that wealth and privilege could not protect them from the consequences of their actions, that respect had to be earned rather than purchased, and that intelligence and character mattered more than possessions. But perhaps most importantly, they had learned that the quiet girl with the cracked screen phone was someone who deserved their respect, their gratitude, and their recognition as one of the most capable and principled students in their school.
6 months after the incident that had transformed Lincoln High School's understanding of technology, respect, and consequence, Maya Chen stood at the podium in the school's main auditorium, addressing an audience of students, parents, and educators who had come to hear about her cybersecurity education program. Her old phone sat on the podium beside her laptop, its cracked screen catching the stage lights as a reminder of how the entire journey had begun. When 5 classmates mocked this phone, Maya said, gesturing to her faithful device, they thought they were making fun of outdated technology. What they were really revealing was their own outdated thinking about what makes someone powerful, intelligent, or worthy of respect.
The auditorium was packed with students from Lincoln High and several neighboring schools, educators interested in implementing similar programs, and parents who wanted to understand the digital world their children navigated every day. In the front row sat Brandon, Tyler, Marcus, Jake, and Connor, their faces showing a mixture of pride, embarrassment, and genuine respect for the young woman who had fundamentally changed their understanding of themselves and the world around them. Maya had spent the months since the bullying incident not just developing her cybersecurity curriculum, but reflecting on the deeper lessons that the experience had taught her about power, justice, and education. Her presentation today would be the culmination of that reflection, a comprehensive explanation of what she had learned and how those lessons could benefit others. The story that brought us all here today isn't really about hacking or technology, Maya continued, her voice carrying clearly through the auditorium. It's about the assumptions we make about each other based on superficial observations and the importance of looking deeper before we judge someone's capabilities or worth. She clicked to her first slide, which showed statistics about cyberbullying, digital harassment, and the mental health impacts of online cruelty. Every day, students across the country face harassment that follows them from school hallways into their homes through their digital devices. The traditional response has been to treat this as a disciplinary problem, to punish bullies after the damage is done. But what if we could prevent the problem by teaching everyone to understand technology well enough to protect themselves and respect others? Maya's presentation covered the technical aspects of digital security, but she wove those lessons together with stories about empathy, responsibility, and the power of education to transform conflict into opportunity. She explained how understanding technology could help students protect their own privacy while respecting others, and how digital literacy was becoming as essential as reading and writing in the modern world. The 5 students who initially targeted me, Maya said, gesturing toward the front row, have become some of my most dedicated collaborators in developing this program. They understand better than anyone how dangerous it can be to navigate the digital world without proper knowledge and ethical guidance. Brandon Matthews raised his hand, and Maya nodded for him to speak. He stood up slowly, his face flushed with the difficulty of public admission, but his voice steady with genuine conviction. 6 months ago, I thought I understood technology because I had the newest devices and the fastest internet connection. I thought I was superior to Maya because my family could afford better equipment. What Maya taught me, what she taught all of us, is that technology isn't about consumption, it's about creation. It's not about having the most expensive tools, it's about understanding how those tools work and using them responsibly. He paused, looking directly at Maya with an expression of genuine gratitude. Maya could have destroyed us. She had the skills to cause permanent damage to our reputations, our futures, our family's businesses. Instead, she chose to educate us. She turned what could have been a revenge story into a learning opportunity. That's the kind of leader and teacher that our generation needs. The applause that followed Brandon's statement was lengthy and heartfelt. Maya felt a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with public recognition and everything to do with the knowledge that her approach had created positive change rather than perpetuating a cycle of harm. Tyler Rodriguez spoke next, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had learned to value authenticity over artificial validation. I spent years building a fake online persona, buying followers and likes, creating an image that had nothing to do with who I actually was. When Maya exposed that artificiality, I felt humiliated and angry. But over time, I realized she had given me something invaluable, the opportunity to discover who I actually was beneath all the performance. Tyler's transformation had been particularly remarkable to watch. The young man who once obsessed over his social media metrics now ran workshops for younger students about the dangers of social media addiction and the importance of building real skills rather than artificial online presence. Marcus's Kim's contribution focused on the policy implications of Maya's work. Maya's cybersecurity program isn't just about individual education, it's about creating systemic change. We're working together to develop legislation that would require digital literacy education in schools, protect students from online harassment, and ensure that young people understand their rights and responsibilities in digital spaces. Marcus had indeed become a genuine political leader, but his approach was now grounded in real experience and authentic commitment to public service, rather than artificial image building and manipulated influence. Jake Peterson and Connor Walsh spoke together about their work with the computer repair shop that had become an extension of Maya's educational program. They had learned not just to fix devices, but to teach customers about digital security, data protection, and responsible technology use. Maya taught us that understanding technology means understanding its impact on people, Jake said. Every device we repair, every system we secure, every person we educate, it's all connected. Technology isn't separate from human relationships and social responsibility. Connor added, I used to think that having access to information meant I had the right to share it. Maya helped me understand that protecting other people's privacy and security is just as important as protecting my own. Real power comes from lifting others up, not from tearing them down. Maya's presentation concluded with a demonstration of her old phone's capabilities, showing the audience how creative programming and custom modifications had transformed the deprecated device into a powerful tool for education, security, and communication. But the real demonstration was the transformation of the 5 young men who had once mocked that same device. This phone, Maya said, holding up the cracked screen device that had started everything, represents something important about how we should approach both technology and human relationships. We shouldn't judge based on appearances, we shouldn't assume that expensive means better, and we shouldn't underestimate people based on what they have or don't have. She looked out at the audience, her gaze taking in the faces of students who would soon enter a world where digital literacy was essential for success and safety. The most important lesson I can share with you today is this: knowledge is the ultimate equalizer. It doesn't matter what device you have, what your family's financial situation is, or what other people assume about your capabilities. If you're willing to learn, to work, and to use your skills responsibly, you can accomplish incredible things. Maya paused, her voice taking on the tone of someone who had learned these lessons through direct experience. But with power comes responsibility. The same skills that allowed me to defend myself against bullying could have been used to cause serious harm. I chose education over destruction, growth over revenge, and community building over individual victory. That choice made all the difference. The auditorium ended with thunderous applause, but Maya's real satisfaction came from the conversations that followed. Students approached her with questions about programming, cybersecurity, and digital ethics. Parents thanked her for creating educational resources that helped them understand their children's digital lives. Educators asked for her help in developing similar programs for their own schools. But the most meaningful moment came when Mrs. Rodriguez, Maya's computer science teacher and first mentor, pulled her aside after the event. Maya, Mrs. Rodriguez said, her eyes bright with pride, when I first met you 3 years ago, I knew you had exceptional technical abilities. But what I watched you become over these past months, a leader, an educator, a force for positive change, that goes beyond anything I could have taught you in a classroom. Maya felt tears welling up in her eyes as she remembered the shy, quiet girl she had been just months earlier. Mrs. Rodriguez, none of this would have been possible without your support and encouragement. You were the first person who saw my potential and helped me believe in myself. The older woman smiled warmly. You always had the potential, Maya. You just needed the confidence to show the world who you really were. And sometimes, unfortunately, it takes adversity to bring out that confidence. As the auditorium emptied, Maya found herself alone with her old phone and her thoughts. She reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment, from victim to victor, from isolated student to community leader, from someone who was underestimated to someone who commanded respect through her knowledge and character. The 5 boys who had started as her tormentors had become genuine allies and collaborators.
Their transformation had been as profound as her own, proving that even the most privileged and arrogant individuals could learn and grow when confronted with the consequences of their actions and offered the opportunity for redemption. Maya's phone buzzed with a message from Ghost, her mysterious online mentor who had guided her through the early stages of her response to the bullying. Saw the video of your presentation. You've learned the most important lesson of ethical hacking, that the goal isn't to demonstrate your power over others, but to use your power to make the world better. You're ready for the next level.
Maya smiled as she typed back. What's the next level? College. MIT specifically. There are people there who want to meet the young woman who turned a bullying incident into a cybersecurity education revolution. And Maya, keep the phone. It's become a symbol of something important, that innovation comes from creativity and knowledge, not from having the newest equipment. Maya looked down at her faithful device. Its cracked screen and worn case, now symbols of her journey, rather than marks of limitation. The phone had been the catalyst for everything that followed, but it had also been her companion throughout the transformation. She had no intention of replacing it anytime soon. As she walked out of the auditorium, Maya passed a group of younger students who were excitedly discussing her presentation. One of them, a shy-looking girl with an older model smartphone, was being teased by a classmate about her device. Maya stopped and approached the group, her presence immediately commanding attention. "Excuse me," she said to the student who had been doing the teasing. "Did I hear you making fun of someone's phone?" The boy's face went pale as he recognized Maya. The story of what happened to students who mocked others for their technology had become legendary at Lincoln High School and the surrounding schools. I was just joking," the boy stammered. Maya smiled, but her expression was firm. "Here's the thing about jokes. They're only funny if everyone is laughing. Making fun of someone for their possessions isn't humor, it's cruelty. And cruelty has consequences." She turned to the girl with the older phone. "What's your name?" "Sarah," the girl replied quietly. "Sarah, that's a perfectly good device. But more importantly, what matters isn't what phone you have, it's what you do with it. Are you interested in learning about technology?" Sarah's eyes lit up with the same curiosity that Maya had felt years earlier. "Yes, I love computers and programming, but I don't know much about advanced stuff." Maya pulled out a business card for her cybersecurity education program. "Come to our next workshop. We'll teach you everything you need to know about making the most of whatever technology you have access to. And Sarah, don't let anyone make you feel inferior because of what you can't afford. In the digital world, knowledge beats money every time." As Maya walked out of the auditorium, Maya passed a group of younger students who were excitedly discussing her presentation. One of them, a shy-looking girl with an older model smartphone, was being teased by a classmate about her device. Maya stopped and approached the group, her presence immediately commanding attention. "Excuse me," she said to the student who had been doing the teasing. "Did I hear you making fun of someone's phone?" The boy's face went pale as he recognized Maya. The story of what happened to students who mocked others for their technology had become legendary at Lincoln High School and the surrounding schools. I was just joking." Maya smiled, but her expression was firm. "Here's the thing about jokes. They're only funny if everyone is laughing. Making fun of someone for their possessions isn't humor, it's cruelty. And cruelty has consequences." She turned to the girl with the older phone. "What's your name?" "Sarah." "Sarah, that's a perfectly good device. But more importantly, what matters isn't what phone you have, it's what you do with it. Are you interested in learning about technology?" Sarah's eyes lit up with the same curiosity that Maya had felt years earlier. "Yes, I love computers and programming, but I don't know much about advanced stuff." Maya pulled out a business card for her cybersecurity education program. Come to our next workshop. We'll teach you everything you need to know about making the most of whatever technology you have access to. And Sarah, don't let anyone make you feel inferior because of what you can't afford. In the digital world, knowledge beats money every time. As Maya walked toward the school parking lot where her parents were waiting to drive her home, she reflected on how far she had come since that morning 6 months ago, when 5 boys had surrounded her locker and mocked her phone. The quiet, isolated girl who'd been targeted for her perceived weakness had become a confident young woman who commanded respect through her abilities and character. But perhaps the most important transformation wasn't in herself, but in the community around her. Lincoln High School had become a place where digital literacy was valued, where students looked out for each other's online safety, and where bullying based on economic privilege had become socially unacceptable. Maya's old phone had indeed crashed the social media empires of 5 arrogant boys, but it had also built something far more valuable. A community of digitally literate, ethically grounded young people who understood that true power came not from having the newest technology, but from using whatever technology they had to make the world a better place. The cracked screen phone that had started as a symbol of limitation had become a symbol of limitless possibility, proving that in the hands of someone with knowledge, creativity, and ethical principles, even the most humble tool could change the world. As Maya climbed into her family's modest car, her phone secure in her backpack, and her future bright with possibility, she knew that this was just the beginning of her journey. MIT awaited, along with opportunities to expand her cybersecurity education program nationally, and the chance to continue using her skills to protect and empower others. The 5 boys who had mocked her old phone had given her an unexpected gift: the motivation to stand up for herself and discover her true potential. In return, she had given them something equally valuable: the opportunity to become better people through education, consequences, and the chance at redemption. It was, Maya reflected, a fair exchange. And it all started with a cracked screen phone and the quiet determination of a girl who refused to be underestimated. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.